Somewhere beneath the South Atlantic, at a depth that turns steel into paper, 44 men cease to exist in less than 1 second. The pressure wave registers on monitoring stations across 3 continents. Seismologists in Germany log it. Hydroacoustic sensors operated by the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, systems built to detect nuclear detonations, recorded at 1:51 p.m. local time on November 15, 2017. The signal lasts 11 milliseconds. That is all that remains of the ARA San Juan and everyone aboard her. But Argentina's Navy does not announce this, not that day, not for 2 weeks. Instead, they dispatch rescue ships. They hold press conferences. They ask the families to be patient. Somewhere in Buenos Aires, an admiral already knows what those 11 milliseconds mean, and he says nothing. The ARA San Juan is an Argentine Navy attack submarine, a TR-1700 class vessel built in West Germany, commissioned in 1985. She displaces 2,350 tons submerged. She carries a crew of 44. She is 32 years old. On November 13, 2017, she departs Ushuaia, Argentina, at the southern tip of the continent, beginning a routine transit north to her home base at Mar del Plata. The distance, roughly 1,500 nautical miles. A mission so ordinary it barely warrants a briefing. At 7:30 a.m. on November 15th, the San Juan's commanding officer, Captain Pedro Fernandez, makes contact with Naval Command. He reports a battery malfunction, a short circuit in the submarine's snorkel system, caused by seawater ingestion. He describes it as controlled, under control. That is the last voice transmission ever received from the San Juan. 6 hours and 21 minutes later, something in the South Atlantic generates a sound signature consistent with a non-nuclear internal explosion. What those emergency calls actually described, the full picture Fernandez was transmitting, will not be disclosed to the families for 11 days. 44 names. But statistics bury people. So remember 3. Lieutenant Commander Luis García Leiva, 39 years old, father of 2 daughters. He had served on the San Juan for 6 years. His wife, Veronica, would stand on the Mar del Plata dock for 19 consecutive days, holding a photograph. Petty Officer Eliana Krawczyk, 35. The first Argentine female submariner to deploy on a combat mission. Her colleagues described her as meticulous, technically gifted, and chronically overqualified for the assignments she was given. Seaman Leandro Cisneros, 22 years old. He had been assigned to the San Juan 11 months earlier. He sent his mother a text message from Ushuaia the morning the submarine departed. It read, "I'll call you when I get back." 32 years old. That is the age of the vessel carrying them. For context, the average American school bus is replaced after 12 years. The story of the ARA San Juan does not begin in November 2017. It begins in the 1990s, in the years after Argentina's military dictatorship collapsed and a democratic government inherited a navy that had spent decades spending money on the wrong priorities. The TR-1700 class submarines were state-of-the-art in 1985. Argentina ordered 6 of them from the German shipyard Thyssen-Nordseewerke. Due to budget constraints, only 2 were ever completed. The San Juan and her sister ship, the ARA Santa Cruz, were the entire Argentine submarine fleet. 2 submarines, for a coastline of 2,800 miles. In 2007, the San Juan underwent a midlife refit, a modernization program that was supposed to take the submarine from its original German systems into the 21st century. The refit was conducted at the Argentine Naval Shipyard in Mar del Plata. It was scheduled to take 2 years. It took 7. An internal Navy engineering assessment completed in 2014 documented what those 7 years had produced. That report, its existence confirmed by Argentine federal investigators, was filed. It was not acted upon. Its specific findings would not be made public until 2018. The San Juan sailed anyway. The battery system is where the San Juan story truly begins to fracture. Original TR-1700 submarines were designed with lead-acid battery arrays, providing roughly 960 kilowatt-hours of stored power, sufficient for the propulsion, life support, and combat systems they were built around. During the Mar del Plata refit, the San Juan's battery banks were replaced, but the replacement cells were not German specification components. They were a mixed procurement, sourced from multiple suppliers, integrated by Argentine naval engineers who were working with incomplete technical documentation from the original manufacturer. Former submarine officers who reviewed the refit specifications for Argentine media in 2018 described the battery configuration as non-standard and not what you would certify for operational deployment. The batteries had another problem. They were hydrogen venting designs. In a sealed submarine compartment, hydrogen accumulates. It is explosive at concentrations as low as 4% in air. The San Juan's battery compartment ventilation system had documented recurring faults. 3 separate maintenance logs from 2016 and 2017, obtained by the Argentine newspaper Infobay following the disaster, record complaints about moisture intrusion in the forward battery section. Moisture in a hydrogen venting battery bank on a submarine. Captain Pedro Fernandez knew his submarine had problems. This is not speculation. It is documented in the communications record. In the months before the November 2017 deployment, Fernandez submitted maintenance requests flagging the battery compartment issues. He was not alone. The San Juan's chief engineer had made similar notations. These requests entered Argentina's naval maintenance bureaucracy and were not resolved before the vessel was cleared for sea duty. Why was the San Juan cleared? Because Argentina's Navy had operational commitments and only 2 submarines to meet them. The Santa Cruz was already in refit. The San Juan was the entire operational submarine force of a G20 nation. There's a term for this in accident investigation: organizational normalization of deviance. It describes how institutions come to accept unsafe conditions as normal because those conditions have not yet produced a catastrophe. The batteries had vented moisture before. The submarine had come back. Therefore, the submarine would come back again. Dennis Milgate, a former Royal Navy submarine commander who later consulted on the San Juan investigation, described the dynamic precisely. You don't get warnings. You get near misses that aren't classified as near misses because nothing went wrong until everything goes wrong at once. Between 1945 and 2017, at least 21 submarines from various nations were lost at sea, most under circumstances that included prior documented mechanical warnings. The ARA San Juan is the most recent. She will likely not be the last. November 14, 2017. The San Juan is running submerged in the South Atlantic, approximately 270 nautical miles off the Patagonian coast, heading north-northeast toward Mar del Plata. The weather above is deteriorating. A low-pressure system is generating sea states of 4 to 5 meters. For a surface ship, that is rough. For a submarine running at periscope depth, attempting to use its snorkel to run diesel engines and recharge batteries, it is dangerous. Waves breaking over the snorkel head valve can allow seawater to enter the system. At some point during the overnight transit, the exact time is not in the official record, seawater enters the San Juan's snorkel. It flows into the air induction pipe for the diesel engines. It reaches the forward battery section. Seawater plus a charging lead-acid battery bank does not produce a manageable problem. It produces chlorine gas, battery cell rupture, and cascading electrical failure. The crew attempts to isolate the affected battery section. They execute the procedure they have trained for. The submarine surfaces, or attempts to surface, to ventilate. At 7:30 a.m. on November 15th, Captain Fernandez transmits his report to Naval Command. He describes a battery malfunction. He says it is under control. He is reporting what he believes. What he does not yet know is what is still happening below the waterline in his forward battery compartment. Between 7:30 a.m. and 10:31 a.m. on November 15th, the San Juan makes 6 additional satellite communication attempts. They are partial transmissions, brief, fragmented, carried on the Iridium satellite network. Naval Command receives them. Most are too incomplete to decode clearly. What Argentine prosecutors later reconstruct from those transmissions is this: the battery situation is not under control. The fire, because by this point it is a fire, or the immediate precursor to one, is spreading. The crew is fighting it with the resources available on a 32-year-old submarine that completed a contested refit 3 years earlier. At 10:31 a.m., the San Juan's last satellite signal is received. It connects for 11 seconds. No voice, no data packet, then silence. Naval Command attempts to raise the San Juan repeatedly throughout the morning. No response. At 1:51 p.m., 3 hours and 20 minutes after the last satellite contact, the hydroacoustic event is recorded, 11 milliseconds. A pressure wave expanding outward at the speed of sound through 432 meters of ocean. At this depth, the maximum survivable diving depth of a TR-1700 is approximately 300 meters. The hull does not flood. It collapses. The pressure differential between outside and inside is approximately 43 atmospheres. The implosion is so rapid and so total that it generates a seismic signal detectable 10,000 kilometers away. There is no time for anything, no time to feel, no time to know. Within hours of the hydroacoustic event, multiple international agencies have data suggesting a catastrophic subsurface event in the South Atlantic. The Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization operates a global network of 337 monitoring stations. Hydroacoustic, seismic, infrasound, and radionuclide, originally designed to detect clandestine nuclear tests. On November 15th, their hydroacoustic sensors at stations in the Indian Ocean and Pacific log an anomalous signal. The CTBTO's analysis, completed within 24 hours, classifies the event as a non-nuclear internal explosion. They share this assessment with member states. Argentina is a member state. The United States Navy's Underwater Surveillance Network, SOSUS, and its successors, systems that tracked Soviet submarines for 40 years of Cold War, also detects the event. American analysts characterize it, in language that will later be quoted in Argentine court proceedings, as consistent with a catastrophic implosion. Argentina's Navy receives this information. What happens next is the part of this story that the Navy's initial public statements do not mention. For 15 days, Argentina continues to conduct what it publicly calls a search and rescue operation. 15 days. 13 countries dispatch vessels and aircraft. Families camp on the dock at Mar del Plata. The Navy issues daily briefings. Hope is maintained. The word rescue requires a survivor. By the analysis available to Argentine Naval Command within 24 hours of the disappearance, there are none. Here's what the Argentine Navy knew and when they knew it. November 16th, one day after the disappearance. CTBTO and U.S. Navy data indicating a catastrophic subsurface event reaches Argentine Naval Command. November 17th, Navy Chief Admiral Marcelo Serur holds a press conference. He states the search continues. He does not mention the hydroacoustic data. November 19th, Argentine Defense Minister Oscar Aguad is briefed on the CTBTO findings. He will later testify that he understood the analysis to be preliminary and uncertain. Prosecutors will dispute this characterization under oath. November 22nd, the Navy publicly acknowledges an anomalous singular event was detected on November 15th. They describe it as possibly consistent with an explosion. They do not use the word implosion. They do not say 44 men are certainly dead. They say the search continues. November 30. 15 days after the submarine's loss, with rescue ships still deployed, the Argentine Navy formally announces the ARA San Juan is lost with all hands. The 2014 engineering assessment, the one flagging critical battery system vulnerabilities, is referenced in Argentine federal prosecutor Claudio Kishimoto's case files as evidence that command-level officers knew the submarine had unresolved airworthiness deficiencies before it sailed. The Navy will maintain for 3 years that no such report existed. In 2020, investigators produce it in court. The institutional logic that sent the San Juan to sea is not unique to Argentina. It is the logic of every under-resourced military that cannot afford to stand down its last operational asset. Argentina's defense budget in 2017 was approximately 0.9% of GDP, one of the lowest among G20 nations. The Navy's submarine program had not received a major capital allocation since the early 2000s. The Mar del Plata refit was funded in tranches, delayed by budget freezes, and staffed by engineers working with incomplete access to original German technical specifications because the licensing agreements had expired. The German shipyard Thyssen-Nordseewerk, which built the San Juan, had closed in 1987. The institutional knowledge of how a TR-1700 should function and what it should not be made to do retired with the people who built her. What replaced that knowledge was assumption. The submarine had sailed. The submarine had returned. The problems had been documented. The documentation had been filed. The submarine would sail again. This is not negligence in the legal sense of carelessness. It is something more systemic and therefore more dangerous. It is an organization that has optimized for operational continuity over operational safety, and has done so for so long that no single decision point feels like the moment the line was crossed. Every individual made a defensible choice. The aggregate of those choices killed 44 people. The wreck of the ARA,